Welcome to Chatting with the Experts, a podcast for immigrant women from Africa and the Caribbean who have relocated to the UK, the US, Canada, or Australia. And here we talk about the struggles while at the same time highlighting the triumph that we have all experienced while living abroad. We also like to share resources with our fellow immigrant so that we all can benefit from those resources. So, my guest today, she's a fellow Caribbean sister. Her name is Ida Blake, and she now lives and works in East London in the UK. She's originally from Monseratt, and so welcome, Ida, to Chatting with the Experts. Tell us all about yourself, where you did your formal education, and let's just learn about you.
All right. Thank you for having me, Paula. So yes, I am Ida Blake. I am 36 years old. I moved to the UK when I was 17, so I've been here technically 2 decades. I grew up on Monseratt. That's where my family kind of lineage come from. Other islands, but Monseratt. That's where, I first learned to speak. Everything that I learned about myself is very Montserratian. So I finished secondary school in Montserrat and then I moved over to the UK. And then, I found myself in many kinds of experiences. But in terms of education, I did do my bachelor's degree, studied health and social care, and I studied nutrition science at a very renowned academy, the Health Sciences Academy. So that's just a little bit about me.
All right, as she said, that's a little bit about her.
Mm-hmm.
So, you moved to the UK at the age of 17. What made you decide
to get away from home, to be honest? That was a huge part. And secondly, in the Caribbean, it's pretty expensive to go to university. It's very expensive. You have to either travel to Barbados or, Barbados or Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just much more convenient. So education would have been free for me to get into. It just seems like the natural progression to move to the UK. I did travel to the UK prior to moving on holiday, and I did meet a very handsome young man, and he was really the stimulation for really wanting to move.
I want to say, so the truth is coming to light.
Yeah.
To further her education, but it was enhanced by meeting a handsome young man.
Yes.
All right. And so you moved to the UK. Did you have family here or there?
Yeah, I had a lot of family in the UK. So for most people in the Caribbean, in the 50s and the 40s and 60s, a lot of people did move to the UK when after the war to work. So my mom come from a family of 15 children. So her first set of brothers did move to the UK in the 50s. So I had lots of extended family from them having children, etc. And when the volcanic crisis happened in Montserrat in 95, a lot of people evacuated to the UK. So I had quite a lot of family that moved over. So in some ways, I kind of knew that I would end up being in the UK at some point.
Okay, because you knew you had family there. And as you said, education was going to be free
exactly
there.
Yeah.
Got you. I love the fact that you were thinking ahead. But we all know that leaving our country of birth or where we grew up can be hard. So I'm sure you have some stories that reflect that, that, I got here and maybe it was what you were expecting or maybe it wasn't. Or was it?
When I came, I was surprised how it looked. My mum always say London is like the capital of old houses. It's so ancient. It's not like the States where everything is very modern in the sense like it's purposely newly built. It's like architecture from the 18th century that's kind of remodeled or restorated with some modern twists. It's kind of changed now since the Olympics Park had been built. But I was quite surprised how it looked. And then secondly, the weather. It was generally grey nearly every day. Like, since I've been here in 20 years, I could probably say I've had 4 real, maybe 5 or 6 real summers. And that's hard coming from the Caribbean and adjusting to seeing grey and lack of colours, because it's not a country where the buildings are pink, yellow, and pink and blue. It's very uniform in very dull colours. So that really took me back. And then being in a city, I suddenly realised that coming from an island, a small community where everyone knows each other and there's a genuine connection amongst people, even if people are not the closest of friends. There's just some kind of cohesion. And in London, it really was like everyone zoom, zoom, passing each other, very superficial conversations. And as a young person, I didn't really know, how do I fit in? Like, I didn't have many friends. Everybody seemed to just be in their own little world. So I felt very alone to start with, very alone. And it was really challenging because I wasn't the personality that I would say I am now, where I would put myself out and try and find things that would resonate with me. Like, I didn't really understand myself as a 17-year-old versus being 36. So trying to see, okay, what can I do? I was really confused. So it was really difficult making friends because I was not at that time had that personality that I could just, easily mold with people, because I tend to be that person that kind of reclusive, keep to myself, maybe have one or two good friends. And I did meet one or two good friends, and that kind of helped, starting to move around, starting to go out. But it was difficult. Just that whole separateness that I've realized people live very separated.
And I think that's a common struggle that a lot of us who move from, our countries, either even, I mean, like I moved from Nigeria and I also lived in Grenada, and I was surrounded by families in both places. And then you move and you find that the Western culture is more, it's not really extended family per se, it's more nuclear. So, me, if you're married or if you have a partner, me and my partner, and our close friends, as opposed to to where we come from, where
People
people
just
don't
rock
even
up
have.
at your door.
Yes, exactly. And it's people don't make appointments. They're just like, I'm
Drop
here. Who's
in.
home? And you open the door, and whether you want to be at home or you're not at home, people drop in, and there's noise. Well, I could say interesting sounds all around, people talking. Here you have security cameras. There, people are security cameras. They call you and say, hey, I just saw somebody come by your house. You know who that is? We've never seen them before, that sort of thing.
Hmm.
Whereas here we depend upon our security camera to record things
Yeah.
and so on. So it is different, and it takes a while to get used to that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it took me, I would say, about 3 years to really adjust, to really
Mm.
accept that this is very different to what I grew up knowing. And to find myself, like, because when I came, I was also confused. Even that, like I said, I did come really to continue my education. Obviously, that relationship was very short lived. And I remember that I didn't pass my O levels or GCSE. I don't know what we want to call it as a universal word. But I was supposed to go on to do my A levels, and I couldn't do it because I didn't pass my O level in maths. And
Hmm.
then it put me back because I didn't really want to go back to do maths again, and I just wanted to do my A levels, and that didn't happen. So I ended up doing a vocational course, and it was in childcare because I was trying to figure out what do I want to do career wise. I knew I always had an interest in health, but I wasn't sure, and I was just confused. I didn't really know what to do. So at that age, you will go to these young people careers advisors, and they'll give you suggestions. Why don't you do work placement? Why don't you do this? And it was suggested to me childcare. And I remember going, and I was just so bored. I was bored. I was like, this is not for me. And then I went back and I decided to just do like an entry kind of like all round kind of vocational thing, like maths, English, this, that. I was like, what do I really want to do? Still didn't know what I want to study. And I kind of then fell into what happened. I started to work. I got a job in a hotel in a bar, like as a waitress. That didn't work for very long because again I was bored. I didn't like it very much. And I remember I went to register with a GP, a doctor's surgery, and I was like, oh, I like this environment. this is really cool. And I was like, okay, I like this. They were doing like vocational programs. So I said, let me do like a vocational program in administration. So then I got a work placement in a doctor's surgery. And then I was like, this is interesting. But then I realized it was very limited. I was like, I don't really want to do administration. And people always keep suggesting to me, why don't I go and do nurse training? And I was like, I don't really want to be a nurse. I like people, I like caring, but I didn't really like that hands on. It was just not me. So I ended up kind of working in like doctor's surgeries and administration for a bit. And then I was like, this, I don't really know. I really didn't know what I want to do for quite a while. I ended up, part of one of the things that helped me, like I said, loneliness was the biggest thing for me. And when I came to London, I was also in an identity crisis with myself. Like, who am I as a person? Like, what do I want in my life? I had quite a lot of traumatic experience because the volcanic crisis really flipped my life upside down. I had to move to a different island for a few years because at the time in Montserrat, no one knew if the volcano was gonna like destroy the island. It was just like a lot of upheaval. That's the best word I can say. It was a lot of uncertainty. So imagine from the age of 10 till I was like 16, 17, that was the dynamics in Montserrat. There was just a lot of uncertainty. So my mind wasn't settled. And as a teenager, you're going through hormonal changes. And I remember my relationship with my parents broke down, and I just really wanted to get away from home. Just wanted to get away from home. And then when I met that young man, I thought, yeah, this would be my life and everything. And then obviously when I came, it was a very short-lived experience. And then one of the things that I found easy to find a way to get over loneliness was having casual relationships with men. It was just so easy to meet men. And I remember that in itself put me in a lot of very bad situations. And I remember ending up at a sexual health clinic just for testing. And I remember I saw a sexual health advisor, and I said to myself, I really like this type of work. This is really interesting. So I asked the lady, like, how did you get to become this and that? And she said, it's not really a clear route in, but you need some kind of health promotion experience and stuff like that. So I remember going back to the young people's kind of advisory service, and I was saying, I really like this. And they were like, there isn't really a clear route. Maybe you need to try and get work experience in a health promotion type of place. So anyway, working in doctor surgeries, doing all that administration bit, I saw a job in a sexual health clinic as a technician, and they would train you up to do things like looking under the microscope, to diagnose gonorrhea, taking bloods from people, and all of that. It just sounds really interesting. And I applied for it and I got it. So that's where all my experience then started. In terms of working with people and then understanding the psychological distress of having like long-term STIs, like people living with HIV, people having like certain conditions that can't go away, like herpes, or keep having cervical issues with HPV. And when I started listening to the conversations and then seeing the other side of human dynamics, it made me really interested in starting to explore my own self and my own issues in terms of how I was attaching to men, because I realized I had a certain attachment style that I was seeking rescuing. I wanted a man to rescue me and make my life for me. And I started to question myself, but that's when I was starting to learn who I am as a person. And then at the same time, I met my husband, the man that I'm married to, and he provoked me to wanted to be better. So then I decided, actually, I enjoy this field that I'm working in. I wanted to be a sexual health advisor. I needed to get my degree. So I went and did my degree in health and social care. Then, cut a long story short, meeting my husband to be at the time, he was in a very difficult situation with his immigration status. So he ended up going back to the Caribbean, and I ended up in a long distance relationship for 6 years, and then we got
with
married.
him.
Yeah.
Wow, 6 years.
6 years.
That's a long time.
Very long time. And during that 6 years experience, I learned a lot about myself, because that relationship provoked me to go do my degree. It provoked me to find a really good paid job. And I ended up working for a very prestigious football club, which I still work for. And then that's where it all started. I start working with clients, people that have issues with their weight. And I also struggled with my weight in my teens because, again, all that trauma that I went through in my relationship with my parents breakdown. I end up with an
Mm-hmm.
eating disorder because, I grew up in a time that beauty, in the R&B era was about thinness, and I was trying to fit into that idea. So I was going through a lot of identity conflict within myself. Like, who am I? Who
Mm-hmm.
am I? And then when I met, like I said, my husband to be, and then I had to do a lot to make myself better to be able to bring him to the UK. Even though when I look at it, it's funny that I wasn't doing all of this for myself. I was doing it because I was in a relationship. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it forced me to actually get grounded and like, okay, what do you want to do? So I did my degree, got a better paid job, started to just invest in myself. So anyway, when my husband moved to the UK, all that glitters wasn't gold. You really kind of now see who he is for who he is. And the marriage in itself was very much a learning experience. It didn't work out. It gave me a beautiful daughter.
Okay.
And she was really my catalyst for really, like, really putting together my work as a health coach. Like, who do I want to serve? I want to serve women that struggle with themselves, understanding who they are, what their purpose in life, loving their self. Because I generally think for the majority of people that struggle with overweight, unless it's a clinical issue that they have some kind of genetic dysfunction why they put on weight, for most people that don't be consistent with themselves or look after their physical needs, is a core belief that they don't deserve to live in a body that they should feel happy and proud in. So,
Mm-hmm.
because I've gone through my own journey, I've used what I've learned through therapy, used what I've learned through coaching, and then my professional studies to create Embody Your Heart Desire program, which I've created. So, it's the whole thing of moving to K. To me, it was just self development as a human being.
And look at you today. Everybody has a story, I believe, but everybody has a purpose. And you found your purpose. It wasn't like a straight road, just, okay, I was born in Montserrat, came to the UK because I knew I needed to further my education, and it would be easier and cheaper to do it here. And once I got here, I jumped straight into school. And look at me today. No, you had your journey.
Oh, yes.
So we are just talking now how I said there's a purpose. There is a purpose for you being here. It wasn't as straightforward as we would have loved it to be, but at the same time, it enabled you to be where you are today. Because I look at your Facebook Live and it is geared towards women and women finding themselves and being happy in their bodies, in themselves, with themselves.
In the present, even though they want to work towards where they want to go.
Yes, yes, yes. And that's important. Ve-
100%. Because I
Yeah.
think there's somebody called it preoccupation destination where you attach your happiness to when you achieve the outcome. And it's like a premeditated idea that you can only be happy if you're in a size 10 or if you've learned, rather than being happy now and do the things you need to do whilst you're moving towards what you think you want. But sometimes what you think you want isn't what you really need. And
Yeah.
making peace. And I think the whole thing of gratitude is actually being thankful for the fact of how everything you have right now serves you. And it's always never a bad idea to want more or to, have a plan to better yourself in whatever area. But to get there in ease mean being in the present and doing the work in the ways that you can. And then you may not even necessarily get there, you might get to a different angle, but it's really not attaching yourself to that idea that you could only be happy if you only see that one way.
So true. So true. Because a lot of us live in the past or we're looking to the future and we're not enjoying the present, forgetting that the present keeps changing, you know? So, like 2 p.m., at 1:59, 2 p.m. was the future.
Mm-hmm.
And so when 2 p.m. came, 1:59 was the past, and 2:01 will be the future. So if we look at that, you know, and like, oh, maybe tomorrow I'll be happy if I have this. And you're not even enjoying what you do have right now. You woke up in the
Exactly.
morning, you're not in a hospital bed. You know, some people are in a hospital
To
bed,
bed. Yes.
you know, but and you could even be in a hospital bed and be happy. My mom used to say happiness
State of
is
mind.
is a state of mind. So you could be anywhere. You have to decide to be happy. And that's important.
I was just thinking because I think the thing is the feeling that people get from having the things that they think is going to make them happy is not the thing, it's the feeling that the thing gives you. And that's something I suddenly realized recently because people used to say it to me and I never really understood it. But it's really the experience is what we want.
And that's another topic, the experience. So the younger people live a lot for the experience. And I like that. It's the experience, but the experience has to be, or should, we should try to make the experience positive. But at the same time, why I hesitated, because even negative experiences can lead to a positive experience, depending on how we, I mean, the perspective that we look at it, you know?
Exactly. I agree. Oh, but you moving to the UK, like I said, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to meet some of the people that I've met from all parts of the world. Like one of my best friends, she's a gypsy from Romania, a Roma gypsy, and she's an activist. She uses her work as an actress to put a lot of messages in terms of discrimination that her people face in Eastern Europe. And until I went to Romania or been around her, I never knew that level of racism still exists in the world. And it's something you don't see on the news and etc. But she had exposed me to a part of the world that I've never would have even thought to travel to, and even to a culture that I've come to even appreciate, not even being exposed to it in the Caribbean. So meeting just different people in the UK, it's a leveler. You get to meet all people, all cultures.
And that in itself has, you know, broadened your outlook on life, changed your mindset, I'm sure, to being able to see that, you know, racism doesn't necessarily have to always do with skin color. Sometimes it has to do with ethnicity.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it has to do with culture.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it even has to do with perception.
Yeah. And again, it comes from a lack of knowledge or understanding of differences because it's the human mindset to see one being better over the other if they're not familiar.
Yes, 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 yes. Oh, I love what you're saying. As you just rightly said, I was about to ask, you know, so now that you've been living in the UK for 19 years, how do you think your experience compares to what you anticipated it would be? But I think you've
Mm-hmm.
answered that in a way because you said it has broadened your outlook on life. It has given you an exposure that you don't think you would have had if you had just remained in Monseratt.
Definitely.
And it has opened up for you opportunities in which you feel you can give back to people, women in particular, especially about self love more than self awareness. Because I mean, self awareness means we're aware.
I think self awareness is awareness, but sometimes when people, everybody's mellowed in their own soup, meaning whatever they've been mixed in from their parents, their environment, their culture. Particularly where when I'm speaking about from my work from self love or self acceptance, sometimes it's a lack of self awareness of their own programming from childhood, what they've learned about relationships, what they've learned about their self if they weren't affirmed as children, why they seek validation, why they don't stretch themselves out of comfort zone. So sometimes people are aware of their situation and they're yearning for more, but then the limitation that comes up in their mind come from lack of self-belief, fear, and all of that. So that's what self-awareness is about. How do you rise above your own limitations, but also acknowledging that you have limitations without blaming yourself for not being able to do this or not to do that. But how can I be a better person? How can I actually take responsibility in all areas of my life? Like, I want a business, but then you sit with the idea and get comfortable and then you don't action it. You want to go back to school, you don't go because you don't believe that actually I have the capacity to learn. You know, you're in a relationship, you can look on the outside and see that actually my husband don't treat me right. I can see, and then you kind of then tell yourself, well, this is it. Maybe it's just me, you know? So I think there is something in self awareness because of different levels of self awareness.
And you hit the nail on the head. There are different levels of self awareness. I know what you are doing is helping people to be aware of, you know, the fact that they are loved. You have to love yourself because you can't even love your neighbor as yourself if you don't love yourself. In fact, you will love your neighbor negatively if you don't love
But
yourself.
it's conditionally because, you know, codependency, when two people are relying on each other to meet an emotional need. And what I find, because I remember this lady said to me, yeah, I treat people the way I like to be treated. But I'm like, but you treat yourself bad. Make that make sense. And then she suddenly realized, but sometimes you're treating people better, or doing things that people ask of you because you want to be seen as a good person, or you want to be, it's validating, even though I'm using the word validation, but it's about affirming a sense of self rather than the affirmation of I am enough, even if I have to tell somebody no, and don't take on the fear of, oh, they're not going to want to be my friend. They're going to see me as a bad person. So a lot of people live in codependent relations with other people.
Agreed. Agreed. But as you rightfully said, it trickles down to you know you loving yourself, you understanding yourself, understanding also that who you are is a combination of your environment, your childhood, what you have seen, what you have been exposed to, because you can't be what you don't know. You can't, when you don't know what you don't know, you really don't know. You
But
know
this
what I
is a
mean?
thing in our community. You're not being like, I can even use relationships to an extent. Or if people will say, oh, you need to aspire to do this or do that. And then as a child, you're hearing this. But then if you have no actual lived example of it, and the people that are telling you to do it, they themselves doesn't do it, it's like falling, it's like water off a duck back because it doesn't make sense. You hear and see it, but it cannot resonate on a soul level because you don't see an example of it.
Exactly. Exactly. And so, Ida, what would you say to like a younger you? If you could look back at from where you are now and what you're doing, if you had a chance to go back and talk to a younger you, or better still, let's make this more realistic. Somebody 19, 17, like you were, leaving Montserrat or leaving their country and coming to the UK, what would you say to them today?
I would say be clear on what you want for yourself. Like, make up your mind what it is that you want to pursue for your life. If you want to do something, be clear about what you want to do, and then just find the ways to take action to do those things, and be willing to push yourself out your comfort zone, to connect yourself to people of like mind, or people that can help you to, learn the things you need to learn, or whatever it is. But you have to be prepared to come out your comfort zone.
Be prepared to come out of your comfort zone. Okay, that's a big one. Sometimes you need support to be able to come out of your comfort zone. Sometimes you have to realize that you are in your comfort zone, to
And the
even know that.
support is, and I know because even with me, I have to stretch myself, and I do have to have support. And if you don't have that, you just have to have that confidence within yourself. And I do believe you have to ask God for things, because the people that gravitated in my life were never for me pre-planned. They just came into my life in different ways. That I met them through work or an event, and but I think you have to be clear what it is that you want, and you have to ask for it. So I'm talking now from a spiritual perspective, but I do think there's a lot of truth in it because of my own experience. You have to ask for what you know you need at whatever given time, and God will give it to you.
And to that I say amen, and a big amen. And also from a spiritual point of view. Which leads me to a question that I love to ask. And let me know if you want to answer that. Do you think that you are where you are today? You're a survivor, you're thriving, you're doing well. Do you think that you will attribute that to luck or to anything or to something else?
No, I don't think luck. I don't believe luck. Like they say, is really you putting yourself out there. But I do think it's also me having that mindset that I didn't want a mediocre life. I wanted to be better as a person. And when I started to really start building my relationship back with God, did I trust God? Did I lean into God? Like objectively put myself out of my feet and really ask and pray and did the right thing, use all the virtues. And that's what I had to do to get grounded. And I tell you, it was the best thing that I did when I really leaned back into God 3 years ago. And is it blessings? I think it's blessings. I don't think it's luck. I think it's blessings.
I love that answer. I think it's blessings. Yes. When you lean back, and I think what I'm hearing from you is even though you were brought up in a Christian home, but developing your own relationship with God changed your outlook or your mindset on a lot of things. Am I correct?
100%.
I love that. I love that. Oh my gosh, all good things do have to come to an end, and unfortunately, this does. So, but I want to share you with others. And so, because I want to share what I've heard and what I'm benefiting from, what I'm enjoying right now with others, where can you be contacted online, Ida?
Okay, so on Facebook is Ida, Ida Roach, Rach. There's many of us, but on Instagram, which is easier, my tag is Ida B underscore holistic health coach. And my email address, maybe if you put in the thread because it's a bit long, but it's Ida B at 360weightlosscoach.com.
All right. And now, for my listeners, if you have enjoyed what you just heard from Ida Blake, the one and amazing and only Ida Blake, please head over to Apple Podcast, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else that you listen to podcasts, and please click subscribe. If you are an immigrant woman from Africa, and I say Africa deliberately because there are 50 odd countries in Africa, or you an immigrant woman from the Caribbean and have found these stories interesting, please let us know in your reviews. And if you'd like to be a guest on my show, Chatting with the Experts, please head over to my website, which is www.chattingwiththeexperts.com/contact us, and let's chat. Did I say you were amazing?
You did. Thank you.
I'm saying it again. You are amazing. I'm so
So are
proud of
you.
you.
Thank you for appreciating me. And thank you for putting out this invitation.